She called the cops and screamed, "Arrest him! He's trespassing on our private beach." But the funny part? The beach wasn't even hers. I still remember that morning, calm waves, quiet breeze, and me holding the keys to my new cabin. It wasn't much, just an old fishing spot my dad used to bring me to when I was a kid. I bought it back after all these years. Something about it felt like home again. As I parked my truck and stepped out, a sharp voice cut through the peace. "Hey, you can't be here!" A woman in a bright pink sweater, sunglasses on her head like a crown, stormed toward me. She looked like she owned the whole coastline. "I'm sorry, do I know you?" I asked. "You don't need to," she snapped. "This is HOA property. And that cabin," she pointed straight at it, "belongs to the community." I laughed softly. "Ma'am, I just bought this land. Here's the deed." But she didn't even look. "Fake papers! We don't allow outsiders here. Outsiders. I grew up catching crabs off this same dock. My dad taught me to fish here before she probably even moved in." But she wasn't done. She whipped out her phone. "You've got 5 minutes before the police arrive. Let's see you explain that to them." 5 minutes later, 2 officers showed up. She greeted them like old friends, pointing at me like I was some criminal. "That's him! He broke in!" One of the cops turned to me. "Sir, can we see your ID?" "Sure," I said calmly. "And maybe after that, you can tell me why you're standing on my property." Karen blinked. "Excuse me?" I smiled, because last I checked, this beach doesn't belong to your HOA. Her face went pale, but she didn't back down, not yet, because what she said next changed everything. Karen crossed her arms and said in that loud, fake, sweet voice, "You think you're smart, huh? I've been president of this HOA for 8 years. We control everything from the fence to the water line. This is community property." The officers looked at each other. One of them, the older guy, scratched his chin. "Ma'am, we can check the records." "But if he has a deed," she cut him off. "Those papers are fake. He probably printed them online." I stayed quiet. Years of military service had taught me one thing: never argue when you can prove. So I opened my truck door, pulled out a leather folder, and handed the officer the original county deed, signed, sealed, and stamped. He looked over the papers, then at me. "Sir, this looks legit." Karen's smile cracked. "Wait, no, that can't be right." "That land has always been ours. Our HOA built that dock." "Funny," I said, "because this dock was built by my father back in '92. There's even a plaque under the railing. His initials are still there." The younger officer walked down to the dock. Moments later, he shouted, "He's right. There's a brass plate here, says built by David H. Rowe, 1992. Karen froze. Her confidence melted into anger. "That doesn't mean anything. You can't just come back after decades and claim it's yours." I looked straight at her. "Actually, I can, because I never sold it." She stared at me like I'd just dropped a bomb. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Then she turned on the officers again. "Do something! Arrest him! He's threatening me!" The older cop sighed. "Ma'am, no one's threatening you. He has the legal documents. You don't." That's when she pulled out her phone again, whispering fast into it. I heard bits and pieces. "Board meeting. Emergency. Get everyone down here." I knew what was coming. Within 20 minutes, 4 SUVs pulled up, all shiny and perfectly clean, like they'd never seen a dirt road before. A group of people got out. Men in polos, women in sun hats, all wearing the same judgmental expression. The HOA army had arrived. One man with slick gray hair stepped forward. "I'm Tom, vice president of the HOA. You must be the squatter." I smiled politely. "Homeowner. But close guess." Karen folded her arms, glaring at me like she was ready to explode. "He's refusing to leave, Tom. He's lying about ownership." Tom held out his hand. "Let's see the paperwork." I handed it over. He barely looked at it before shaking his head. "This isn't valid. Our records show this parcel as community access land." "Then your records are wrong," I said. "You might want to check the county office." "The beach was never part of your subdivision," Karen snapped. "Don't talk to him like that. You're lucky we haven't impounded your truck yet." I almost laughed. "Try it." Tom's tone hardened. "Sir, If you refuse to cooperate, we'll file a trespassing complaint. Do what you need to, I said calmly. But you might want to check who signed your HOA's property map first. That line made him blink. He didn't know that I'd already spoken to the county surveyor earlier that week, a man who remembered my father well. The map the HOA had been using was 10 years out of date and illegally redrawn to include my land. As I watched them argue among themselves, my phone buzzed. It was a message from the surveyor. Just finished verifying. Your property line extends 30 feet past the dock. Sending official report soon? I smiled. Timing couldn't have been better. Karen noticed and frowned. What's that smirk for? Just a message, I said. From someone who knows where the real property lines are. Her face twisted. You think this is over? We'll see what happens when the county inspector gets our report. She stomped off toward her SUV, nearly tripping on the boardwalk. Tom followed, muttering into his phone. The rest of the HOA members gave me glares sharp enough to cut glass before leaving. When they were gone, the older officer looked at me. You sure you want to stay here? These people look like trouble, I nodded. I've dealt with worse, he grinned. You military? Yeah, retired. He gave a knowing nod. Then I guess you can handle a few angry neighbors. That night, I sat on the porch of the cabin listening to the waves. The sunset bled gold over the horizon, and for the first time in years, I felt peace. But peace never lasts long around people like Karen, because when I woke up the next morning, something was different. The dock was gone, completely vanished. Every plank, every nail. All that remained were muddy tracks leading toward the HOA marina. I clenched my fists. They hadn't just trespassed. They'd stolen part of my property. I took a deep breath, trying not to lose control. Then I spotted something else nailed to my cabin door, a white paper folded in plastic. Notice of HOA violation. Unauthorized construction. Immediate removal required. Fines pending. I read it twice, then laughed. You've got to be kidding me. I grabbed my phone, snapped photos of the empty dock, the tire marks, and the notice. Then I made a call. Not to the police, but to someone who'd helped me more than once back in the service. Hey, Mike, I said when he answered. Ro, been a while. What's up? I've got a situation with a local HOA. They stole part of my property. He whistled. That's new. You want me to come down? Not yet, I said. But I might need your help proving something. Because I had a plan. And it was going to hit the HOA harder than they ever expected. They thought they were untouchable. But they were about to learn. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that empty stretch of water where my dock used to be. The sound of the waves, usually calming, now felt like a reminder that someone had crossed a line. My line. By sunrise, I already had a plan. I wasn't going to yell, threaten, or argue. People like Karen thrived on chaos. I was going to use something stronger. Proof and patience. First step, I called the county survey office. This is David Rowe, I said. I need a property verification report on file for parcel 142B. The lady on the phone replied, Oh, yes, sir. We already sent that to your email yesterday evening. I opened my laptop. The report was there. Official, sealed, and crystal clear. My boundary included the cabin, the sand stretch, and the dock area. The HOA's claims? Completely false. I smiled. Perfect. Then I made my second call to Mike. Still thinking about that HOA mess? He asked. They took the dock, I said. I need a little help documenting what they did. You want it quiet or loud? Quiet for now. By afternoon, Mike arrived in a black pickup, wearing sunglasses and that same grin from our old days in the Marines. Man, I can't believe they stole a dock, he said, looking around. That's a first even for me. They think they can get away with it, I said. But I've got cameras. I pointed to the trees near the cabin where small motion sensors blinked faintly. Installed them a week ago when I noticed someone snooping. We checked the footage, and there it was. Clear as day. 4 HOA trucks. Men wearing polo shirts with community crew printed on the back. And right in front, giving orders with a flashlight in hand, was Karen herself. Mike whistled. She led the operation. Yeah, I said. And they used HOA vehicles to transport private property. He laughed. They're cooked, but I didn't want revenge yet. I wanted something stronger, public exposure. The next morning, Karen returned, this time with 2 other HOA members. She walked up to the porch like she owned the place. "We gave you notice," she said, waving the violation paper. "You ignored it." I leaned against the doorframe. "You mean the fake notice?" "Yeah, I ignored it." Her eyes narrowed. "You think you're funny?" "No," I said. "But I do think the sheriff will find this funny." Her face froze. "What sheriff?" I clicked the remote in my hand and my outdoor TV lit up. The screen showed the recorded footage, Karen, her crew, and the trucks hauling away the dock in the middle of the night. Her jaw dropped. One of the men beside her whispered, "Karen, that's you," she stuttered. Where did you get this?" "From my property," I said. "You know, the one you trespassed on." She tried to recover. "You can't use that. That's illegal surveillance." Mike, who had stepped out quietly, spoke from behind her. "Actually, ma'am, it's legal. The cameras are on his land and the signs are posted." Karen spun around, startled. "Who are you?" "Just a friend," he said with a small smile. "Who happens to work in law enforcement?" Her face drained of color. "Law enforcement?" "Retired," he added. "But I know a few people who'd love to see this footage." Karen's anger shifted into desperation. Okay, maybe this got out of hand. "We can fix this. How about we rebuild the dock? No need for police." I looked at her for a long moment. "You're not worried about the police. You're worried about your position." She flinched. I was right. If this got out, she'd lose her HOA presidency faster than she could hold another fake meeting. "I'll make it disappear," she said quickly. "The notice, the fines, and everything. Just forget this ever happened." I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "You destroyed my father's dock. You called the cops on me. You humiliated me in front of my own property. And now you want to pretend it never happened?" Her hands trembled slightly. I didn't mean for it to go this far." Mike crossed his arms. "You meant every bit of it until you got caught." Before she could answer, another SUV pulled up. This one unfamiliar. A man stepped out wearing a county badge on his jacket. "Mr. Rowe?" he called. "I'm Deputy Sanders. Got a report about property theft?" Karen's eyes widened. "Who called you?" "I did," Mike said calmly. The deputy looked at the footage on the TV. "This is clear enough. You folks loaded property onto HOA trucks?" Karen started to speak, but Tom appeared from behind her. "Deputy, this is a misunderstanding. We thought it was community land." "Then you won't mind if we confirm that," Sanders said, holding out his hand for the deed and report. I gave him the folder. He scanned it quickly. "This document shows clear ownership under Mr. Rowe. You're trespassing, ma'am." "And removal of his dock qualifies as theft," Karen's voice broke. "You can't arrest me for that." The deputy raised a brow. "Who said anything about arresting? But you'll need to come in for questioning." Her face turned pale. "Questioning?" Tom looked ready to explode. "Karen, what did you do?" I didn't say anything. I just watched as the 2 officers guided them to the SUV. Karen kept looking back, her expression a mix of disbelief and fury. As they drove away, Mike chuckled. "You really think that's the end of it?" "No," I said quietly. "People like her don't quit. They get quiet, and then they hit harder." He nodded. "You want me to stay a few days?" "Maybe just 1, I said. "If she's got another move, I want her to make it fast." That evening, the sky turned crimson, and I sat by the porch again. The waves were calmer now, but my gut said this wasn't over. HOA power plays never ended after one defeat. They regrouped, schemed, and came back twice as loud. I was right. Around midnight, headlights flashed through the trees. A car stopped near the edge of the property. Then another. Then another. Mike whispered, "We've got company." We moved quietly to the window. A group of 5 people stood near the sand. One of them was Tom. He held something in his hand, pointing toward the cabin. Mike squinted. "Is that a camera?" "Worse," I said. "It's a notice. They're filming a new complaint." And sure enough, Tom's voice echoed through a loudspeaker. "This property has been declared unsafe for habitation under HOA Code Section 12A. Mike burst out laughing. "They're unbelievable." "Let them finish," I said calmly. They planted another paper on the gate and took photos for records. Then they left, thinking they just scared me. I waited until their taillights vanished, then walked out and tore the notice down. It wasn't even official, just a piece of paper printed with the HOA logo and Karen's forged signature. I looked toward the marina where my dock had been taken. A few floodlights were still glowing there, and that's when I saw it, my dock, half rebuilt, being used as a private platform for the HOA's weekend parties. That's when I stopped thinking about patience, because this time, I wasn't going to just prove them wrong, I was going to take everything back, publicly, legally and permanently, and the way I was going to do it would make every HOA board in the county rethink how far they could push a man who refused to back down. Midnight stunts. They were wrong. I started the morning by posting the footage to a local news tip line and to my small social page. Nothing flashy. Just the raw clips. HOA trucks at 2 a.m. Karen giving orders. The dock being ripped apart. I added one line under the video. "This beach isn't yours. It's mine." Within hours, messages poured in. Neighbors I'd never met messaged, "We saw them too." And, "That dock belonged to your family." Somebody from a county watchdog group asked if they could use the footage. I said yes. Word spread faster than I expected. A local reporter called by noon. "Are you willing to go on camera?" she asked. I said yes. I wasn't looking for fame. I wanted one thing, the truth in front of as many people as possible. Karen's nightmare was simple. If the public saw what she did, her power would crumble. While the reporter prepared for a live segment, I made more calls. I called the title company and the surveyor again and asked them to prepare notarized statements. I called a lawyer friend from my service days and asked about emergency injunctions. Mike called a county code officer he knew and asked him to come see the site before the HOA could plant more fake notices. When the camera crew arrived, Karen was already in full damage control mode. She staged a photo op at the marina with a placard that read, "Protecting Community Property." The irony hit like a slap. She was standing on a slab of my land, smiling for the lens. The reporter set up on my porch while the crew filmed the marina. I told my story simple and steady. I showed the deed. I showed the survey. I played the night footage. The crew cut between my face and the trucks hauling the dock. In one clip, Karen's voice was loud. "We're protecting our community." In the next, she was directing men with crowbars. When the segment aired that evening, the comments exploded. People used words like shame, corruption, and bullies. The county watchdog asked the reporter to share the uncut footage. The county survey office posted their verified map online. My inbox filled with offers of help. Lawyers, neighbors with old photos of my father fixing the dock, even someone who had the original construction permit from 1993. Then the first real twist came. The county attorney called me personally. "We're opening an investigation into the HOA's records," he said. "There are signs of forged documents and improper property mappings." I felt a strange mix of relief and cold anger. Relief because the truth had traction. Anger because it had to come to this to be believed. Karen did not go quietly. That same night, she filed an emergency complaint, claiming the cabin was an environmental hazard. She contacted a private contractor and sent them photos of my yard, pointing out erosion and dead plants. The contractor signed a quick report, and the HOA posted a new notice. Unsafe structure. Do not occupy. Their plan was obvious. Make me look reckless. Get a temporary order, then claim I ignored official warnings. I expected a move like that. I had already hired an independent environmental engineer last month when I first bought the place, just to be safe. Her report had become my secret weapon. I emailed the engineer's notarized findings and the lab results to the county and to the TV station. The engineer had tested soil, water runoff, and found the land healthy and stable. No violations. The contractor's report looked amateur and biased next to it, but Karen pivoted again. She used her husband's contact at a small private title firm to rush out a corrected map, one that put a sliver of my beach into HOA hands. That was when I learned the ugly truth. This wasn't only about pride. For years, the HOA had quietly been redrawing maps to absorb prime shoreline parcels. My family's dock had been in their sights for a while. I pulled a file from my folder and smiled coldly. Years ago, my father had kept an old ledger, notes about who used the dock, repairs, neighbors' names. It was informal, but it mattered. I titled the ledger photocopies and handed them to the county attorney. "My father kept records," I said. "Ask anyone who fished here before 2000. This was never HOA land." Another twist. One of the HOA board members, Tom, had a long voicemail thread saved to his cloud. In it, Karen and Tom joked about getting good land and bending maps. The local reporter published the thread the next day. Now, it wasn't just a fight over a dock, it was a pattern of collusion. The county moved fast. Deputies came and took statements. The HOA's bank account was flagged for irregularities related to funds they claimed were used for community improvements. Members of the public began showing up at HOA meetings, demanding answers. People who had once been too scared to speak suddenly felt empowered. The tide had turned, but Karen still had tricks. She started a smear campaign on social media, photos of my truck with scrap metal near the cabin, croppy images of trash, which I'd collected myself that morning, and comments alleging I was a threat to the community. Her followers rallied to buy into the lie. That's when I used the hardest weapon, consistency. Every day I posted a short update, a clip of the surveyor, a quote from the county attorney, a neighbor's sworn statement. I let facts and calm voice win the public square. Mike and I took a few live Q&A sessions with residents. We answered questions. We showed receipts. We never raised our voice. People could sense the difference between truth and theater. At one community hearing, Karen stood up and tried to scream me down. I could see the cameras trembling with excitement. Would Karen rage, or would I? I did neither. I kept it simple. "I serve this country," I said, looking at the room full of faces, "to protect land like this, your freedoms, your property. I didn't fight for it so someone could steal it in the night." The line landed. Phones rose. People nodded. That sentence spread. Strangers texted it, the reporter replayed it, and someone tacked it on a handwritten sign posted at the marina. "He fought for our land." That moment changed everything. People who had once tolerated Karen's little rules began to call her out. The HOA board, squirming, split into those who wanted to settle quietly and those who wanted to double down. The county attorney told me privately that the investigation would likely lead to criminal charges for theft and forgery if the evidence held. But the final twist in this section wasn't legal, it was personal. Late one night, when the whole town thought the fight was almost over, I found a small, folded envelope slipped under my door. Inside was an old black and white photo of my father and a man I didn't recognize, both smiling on the dock. On the back, in careful handwriting, "We were wrong to let them push you out. J." The note had no signature beyond that initial. My mind raced. Who was J? A friend? A neighbor? Or someone inside the HOA who had a conscience? The timing was perfect and dangerous. Whoever left it knew my history and had been watching. I kept the photo and the note on my nightstand. I didn't sleep much that night. The case was getting bigger than a stolen dock. It was revealing a network. And that network had people inside it who were starting to worry about the truth coming out. As dawn came, I felt the old familiar calm settle. Not the calm of surrender, but the calm of someone who had a plan and the courage to carry it out. The county was moving, the public was watching, and the HOA had more enemies than it realized. What I didn't know yet was who Jay really was. And when that person stepped forward, it would change the fight in a way nobody expected. But for now, the dock was still gone, the investigation was heating up, and a small black and white photograph rested on my table like a seed that was about to bloom. "You don't get to take what my father built," I told the empty room. "Not today." The next morning, fog rolled over the beach like a slow curtain. The photo from Jay still sat on my table. Something about it wouldn't leave my mind. The man beside my father looked familiar. I stared at his face until it clicked. Tom, The same Tom who'd been shouting HOA rules at me and following Karen's orders like a soldier. But in the photo, he wasn't an enemy. He was young, maybe 20, standing shoulder to shoulder with my father, both of them holding fishing rods. So Tom had known my dad. He'd fished on this same dock, decades before the HOA ever existed. That meant something inside him had cracked. Maybe guilt. Maybe memory. Either way, that photo was his message. And his way out. Later that day, I drove toward the community hall where the emergency HOA meeting was being held. The parking lot was full, reporters everywhere. Karen was standing outside, her hair perfect, smile fake as ever, trying to convince the cameras she was innocent. I walked past the crowd and right through the front doors. People turned when they saw me. Some whispered. Some nodded quietly. Tom was at the table looking pale. When our eyes met, he gave the smallest nod, like he knew this was the end. The county attorney stood near the front. "Mr. Rowe, thank you for coming," he said. "We'll begin shortly." Karen slammed her folder on the table. "This is harassment. This man is obsessed. He's lying about ownership and destroying our community's peace." I stayed calm. "You said I was trespassing. You called cops, filed fake reports, and stole my dock. So tell me, Karen, if this beach belongs to your HOA, how did my father's name end up on every construction permit since 1992? She laughed, shaky and forced. "You made those up." The attorney lifted a document. "These are county-certified copies, ma'am, verified against original signatures. The Rowe family has owned that property line for over 30 years. Karen's smile faltered. "That's not possible." The records were updated. Tom suddenly stood. "No, Karen, you updated them." The room went silent. Cameras turned toward him. His hands trembled, but his voice was steady. "I helped you redraw the maps. You said it was harmless, just a boundary correction. But it wasn't. It was theft. I didn't realize until I saw the old dock photo again." Karen's face drained of color. "You can't prove that." Tom opened his phone and pressed play. A voice recording filled the room. Karen's voice, sharp and impatient. "Just shift the border 20 feet. No one checks old files anyway." Everyone froze. The attorney stepped forward. "That's all we need." Deputies moved in. Karen tried to back away, stammering, "You can't do this. I'm the HOA president." The deputy replied calmly, "Not anymore." The click of handcuffs echoed louder than the ocean outside. Reporters snapped photos. Karen's perfect composure shattered. She screamed something about lawyers and revenge as they led her away. I stood quietly, watching years of arrogance collapse into silence. After the hearing, Tom came over, eyes wet. "I'm sorry, David. I didn't mean for any of this to happen." I nodded. "You made it right. That's what matters." He handed me the original photo, the one he'd left at my door. "Your dad was a good man. He helped me when I had nothing. I should have remembered that before siding with her." I took the photo carefully. "Thank you." When I got home that evening, the county crew was already there, setting new boundary posts and reattaching what remained of the dock. They'd ordered the HOA to fund a full rebuild. Every plank, every bolt, every damage repaired at their expense. Mike stood beside me, arms crossed, grinning. "Looks like justice finally showed up," I smiled. "Yeah, and about time." He looked at the ocean. "You gonna keep the cabin?" "Every inch of it," I said. "My father built it for peace. I think it's about time it gets some." A few weeks later, the new dock was finished. The brass plaque with my father's initials had been polished and placed back where it belonged. Locals came to fish again. Kids laughed. Gulls circled overhead. And for the first time in months, the sound of waves didn't carry anger, just home. Karen faced charges for property theft, falsifying public documents, and harassment. The HOA dissolved soon after, replaced by a volunteer group that actually helped residents instead of bullying them. I didn't celebrate with fireworks or revenge speeches. I just sat on the edge of that dock one evening, the sun turning the water gold, and whispered, "We got it back." "Dad." The wind moved through the reeds like a quiet answer. Sometimes justice doesn't roar. It arrives in silence, steady and sure, and as I watched the tide roll in, I realized something. People like Karen believe power comes from control. But real power comes from standing your ground, calmly, firmly, and with truth on your side. I didn't fight for this country, I murmured, watching the sunset fade, just to be told I can't stand on my own land. The ocean stayed still for a moment, as if listening. Then a single wave touched the dock. Light, quiet, almost like a handshake. Justice served. Peace restored. Story closed.